Ooh, wrong button there. Please, my fellow freedom lovers, South Thinkers, LLT News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Swampy Mangoes, South Florida. And today's date is Saturday, June 16th, 2018. And hopefully everyone's having a very pleasant weekend and a safe one. And just to keep things in mind, you still have to remain vigilant and pay attention to the best of your ability, plus always observe responsibly. And it's interesting the stuff going on around the world and so forth. And it's interesting is that in 2026, the United States, Canada, and Mexico will be hosting the World Cup Tournament of Football, or in other words, soccer to the rest of us in the American nation. However, can I say Club of Rome 101 or North American Union Revisited may use this sporting event to be part of the New World Order, all three nations into one? Sounds does like a North American Union agenda, trying to go right below our noses, allegedly speaking. And of course, there's many other things that are happening. I just posted many of these things. One of the incidents that came out, judgments and so forth, and one high-ranking police officer in Seattle, Washington, was convicted of sexual abuse, rape, and statutory rape of his own children. He is serving a good amount of time. He is found guilty of repeatedly raping his own children. That's from freedomoutpost.com, which did, like a lot of other websites, they all congregated into this one area, which is good. It's good that everyone's working as a team on here. And of course, the governor of Colorado may be appointed by the Bilderberg to be the 2020 president picked. That's all you folks in Colorado, be aware. He could be a bend over Bob to the New World Order, regardless of partisanship. And we can even go further. Like one person that passed from who was a tech, and if I hounded him to his grave because he visited the ultra right speech up in Charlottesville. Of course, you got Antifa, which are claiming to hate fascism, but they're fascists themselves. This is what happens when you have mind-controlled twits. Don't even know what fascism is all about, or tyranny. As long as they're aware of the highway, just another bunch of flamboyant entity. Just like the rest of the clowns. Doesn't matter where you're from. I laugh at all you individuals equally. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everyone in that movement are bad folks. We're always going to have the herd conformers, wear the cowbells around their necks, go walking antimatter. And of course, there's a lot of infiltrating that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. And it's a shame this person had to kill himself. He lost his job and all that. And he'd been witch on it. So just to check something out and listen. And you disagree, you condemn these people. This is pure hypocrisy at its finest. Individuals like that, with that mindset, saying you're a fascist Nazis, and they're doing the same treatment, are nothing more than corrupt parasites, psychic vampires. And I say that in good faith. And I can, there no one to challenge me on this, because I'll tell you one thing for sure. I see all these mind control hacks everywhere I go. It's nothing new at all. Do yourselves a favor, contemplate on your own free will without being part of a herd conformity. And other folks are still discussing about Trump's bold historic gamble. And they even claim, too, that the defense stocks has went down because of it. So, damn you do, damn you don't, right? Let's see how far this baby goes. Of course, you got the mainstream news saying, oh, yeah, he bellied up. But you know what? You got to make your own decisions, do your own homework. And there's even a claim as well. I have to look into this. Project of New American Century, PNAC, one of the countries that's considered to be targeted for regime change was North Korea. I could be mistaken, but I have to look that up myself. But anyone else that can, please send the information to me. I'll greatly appreciate it. Yes, I am at Squeaky's Pizza, New York style pizza, located at 207 Southwest 2nd Street in Hermitage Drive, in the heart of the Hermitage District of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yes, type in Facebook, Squeaky's New York style pizza in Fort Lauderdale. You'll find it. Boom. Self-explanatory. They're open from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday, and they're off on Mondays. However, they may open up once in a blue moon, which is legit. They can. Good place, cool vibe, and it's nice and warm out here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Just it's June. Summer is just around the corner. Officially, we already started. So one of the areas I like to talk about, I know I posted some of it on my Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus pages. I should go to my other social media sites as well. Is mainly what's going on with the whole immigration status, illegal immigration status, and how they're separating their kids and all that. And even I know John Whitehead from Williford Institute finds this pretty damn inhumane. And people, they gotta go by the rules, which I'm not gonna argue about that. However, who's actually benefiting? There's some plans of profits and so forth that Walmart and FEMA joined forces. And even though it's happening in the Trump administration, but it actually started in the Obama administration, I'm gonna put those links out as well. So there'll be a few articles pertaining to this, and I do have a couple of videos, which I'm just going to leave it at that, by Lisa Hayden, because she did bring it up. That's the first she brought it out for a while, made it official, because I heard about these things way back, 4 or 5 years ago, pertaining to FEMA and Walmart are joining forces, or Homeland Security. And that's very interesting. Pretty fascistic, you would say, correct? I will address that in good faith. So, let's just start this off. And it's pretty cool because one group, one site, a website called Liberty Buzz. They started following me on Twitter, so I did follow back, and I got the link on Liberty Buzz news feed. I'd like to thank them for throwing that to me. And this is from libertybuzznews.com, and it came out today. There'll be a few articles on here pertaining to that, and one by the Intercept as well. It says here, inside America's largest child migrant detention center in Old Texas Walmart. It came out June 16th by the TeknoAXE. It says here, U.S. government released some memorable images on Thursday revealing the inside of the mysterious new U.S. Department of Health and Human Services HHS Immigration Detention Center for children who cross illegally into the United States, called Casa Padre. The former 250,000 square foot Walmart in Brownsville, Texas, houses nearly 1,469 boys between the ages of 10 and 17. It is the first glimpse inside of one of these detention centers that are spring up across the U.S. since the Trump administration enacted a zero-tolerance immigration policy in April. The result, thousands of children have been separated from their parents who illegally crossed the border with them. Earlier this week, the federal government allowed a hand-selected group of reporters to tour the warehouse of children before entering. Journalists had to agree to the list of preconditions, including no cameras, cell phones, smart devices, and or recorders. Officials told journalists that children and employees were not allowed to be interviewed. So everything's all hush-hush gag orders conditions, I would say. There's photos in here as well, so I'm gonna have all these links on my footnotes and my speaker page. You can really see it for yourselves. And of course, they have one kid playing video games from PlayStation. So that's here, Jacob Sabarov, an MSNBC correspondent, said, "I'm part of the first group of journalists to go into the shelter for detained child migrants in Brownsville, Texas, since the zero-tolerance separation policy was announced. 1,000 plus boys here." And it tells you right here, and it says here, going in right now, more tonight by Chris Hayes, MSNBC Twit. So the Twitter page on that, on the platform. Scarborough said the government provided journalists with a media kit of images from the tour. Some get handoff photos from the tour with HHS government. So they're just going to tell you some of the give you photos of what is going on, but how authentic is it or accurate. Here's the Trump mural I mentioned at Chris Hayes inside the shelter for incarcerated children migrants. Also their beds and towels they shower with. Jacob Sabarov. Okay, it came out June 14th. Sabarov also said the Trump administration has chosen a new location, Tornillo, Texas. The HHS will erect a tent city for a full large tent whose walls touch the ground, estimated to hold approximately 450 beds for children. Has got been confirmed right here. 450 beds. Kids will sleep in tents. By the same gentleman, Jacob Sarborov. Sarborov then blamed the Trump administration for overcrowded conditions at the Brownsville facility, calling it a crisis. And he addressed it all there and says the overcrowding is a crisis manufactured by Trump, a direct result of a new policy to prosecute 100% of people who enter the U.S. illegally, which separates families. So there's executive video on that. Okay, exclusive video, NBC secured inside overcrowded Casa Padre facility. Kids here don't get out much, spending almost $22 a day indoors. So that's not really that healthy, with all due respect. Jacob is one of the first journalists invited inside America's largest detention facility for migrant children on the Today Show. With the 2018 midterm elections, if in the not too distant future, the Trump administration's zero-tolerance immigration policy could turn into an overcrowding crisis at facilities, as some of the reporters who toured the Casa Padre facility have already pointed out. If it is evident that officials in Washington are scrambling to contain the overflow by opening tent cities in various regions. Within the destruction of retail brick and mortar stores, there should be enough Kmart's, Toys R Us's, and Walmart's around the nation to provide as core infrastructure for President Trump's exploding new industry of child migrant detention centers. That's really, it reminds me of the time in the 80s of Tent City down in Miami with the Mariel Boatlift era. And it's really sad because even with this area, like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not really too crazy about illegal immigration in good faith. They should all, but how many of them are seeking asylum? That's the question too, and that should be a relevant question. And they should be heard and tried respectfully. So hopefully that will be the case. However, in the same article, same news site, talks about who's benefiting. Beyond racism, immigrant mass detention is all about profit. And by Crozier, this is from Bellingham, Washington. While Donald Trump stepped up, repression of unauthorized migrants have been touted out as a tough policy meant to stem flood of animals affiliated with transitional criminal groups. His doctrine policies remain unlikely to deter desperate asylum seekers from seeking entry to the United States. Instead, family separation and arbitrary prosecution and incarcerations are upping the scale of trauma suffered by refugees, while asylum claims and border crossings continue to increase. Trump's Make America Great policies may have resulted in misery for thousands of poor migrants, yet the rise in human suffering has resulted in jackpot prizes for some players at the New York Stock Exchange. For Thomas A. Madriel, a food system researcher at Community to Community Development in Bellingham, Washington, these inhumane policies are about dollars and cents. Under the Trump administration, there are no ifs, ands, or buts. This is a class war, Madriel told Mint Press News. And there's an article in the New York Times pertaining to this, detained near their border. And it says here, just as White House policies on taxes, land use, military expenditures, and foreign trade have overwhelmingly favored the financial sector, the Trump-era immigration enforcement regime has directly translated to a huge boost in dividends for those invested in industries reliant on the exploitation of immigrants, and especially the commercial prison industry. It's the latest sequel, a franchise that began with the war on drugs, continued with the war on terror, and a found renewed purpose with the rise of a super new villain, the MS-13 animal from El Salvador, whose mantra, we're told, is kill with control. The political economy of the U.S. immigrant reinforcement regime shows how white nationalists or nativist populism, the criminalization of immigrants, the swamp of private interest lobbyists, the national security state, and neoliberalism, the corporate takeover of public services by monopolistic capital have combined to fuel an expanding model of profit-driven trade based on mass punishment, mass confinement, and the exploitation of poor children. The tearing apart of families we see as a terror tactic in a desperate attempt by the Trump administration to force down poverty wages for immigrants across multiple industries, Marjorie said. The prison industrial complex, a cliche buzzword or apt description. While the term prison industrial complex smacks of smacks of an activist catchphrase or academic buzzword, the term is an accurate descriptor of the matter in which the growth of the U.S. prison population has multiplied, spawning lucrative public-private partnerships benefiting public officials and for-profit entities alike. The prison industrial complex is a natural byproduct of neoliberalism, which became the ruling doctrine of the West in the 1970s, and amid sharp crisis in the capitalist world system, uninhibited capitalism or the free market was the pick as the purest form of liberty, resulting in monopoly enterprises, multinational corporations, being given the freedom not only to stifle small companies, but to also shadow unions, stifle workers' wages, and destroy large swathes of the public sector. Yeah, it's more like neo-mercantilism, globalism, etc. I can say that as a union man myself. By the late 1970s, governments on the state and federal level coped with prison overcrowding caused by mass incarceration throughout the nation, allowing private companies to contract with public prisons for the sake of cutting costs and tapping into incarcerated inmate labor. Just to let you folks know, the public-private sector's interstate flow is ruled illegal under Article 7, Section 10 of the state constitution. That's a fact, but all these dimwits don't want to read. They believe you can't read. Read it and shove it down their throats. Plain and simple. As Christopher Scherer and Anil Shah noted in an article for the Bullet Global Labor Forum published last April, it says here, quote, "From there is only a small step to propose using prisoners' labor power as a source of income. The discourse of financing prisons and detainees moved from public assistance to self-financing. Under neoliberalism, detention itself is becoming a self-inflicted penalty for which the prisoner and the prisoner's relatives literally have to pay. Processing charges for visits, rents for beds, and co-financing for medical care. In many cases, prisoners are released with bills for prison services for several $1,000s. Yes, and then of course the private prison industry. Yeah, man, private labor industry too, prison labor industry. This has resulted over the past decades in the growth of a trend in a profit accumulation where captive workforces face highly exploitative conditions where labor is deprived of the right to organize to better their conditions. From Victoria's Secret to Nintendo, Wisconsin cheese to Hawaiian papayas, as well as telecommunications and military industries. The prison economy has proven to be a boon to investors thanks to generous contracts from the government and the extremely low cost of prison labor, which amounts around $1 per hour for migrant detainees. In a 2009 book, The Prison Industrial Complex and the Global Economy, authors Eve Goldberg and Linda Evans noted, for private prison labor is like a pot of gold. No strikes, no union organizing, no unemployment insurance or workers' compensation to pay. The new Leviathan prisons are being built with thousands of eerie acres of factories inside the walls, all at a fraction of the cost of free labor. Even the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery, excludes prisoners from its protection. And it's the 13th Amendment, if I'm correct. Okay, so just to give you guys a correction, 13th Amendment about slavery is abolished for time of punishment. So just to proceed here. As the case under slavery, for-profit prisons thrive on the capture of masses of people and their exploitation within the walls of the prison industry. Those immigrants who speak up against their mistreatment or who demand basic rights, the punishment is severe. Magriel sees a direct parallel to trends in the agricultural industry where growers are increasingly reliant on guest workers, unfree laborers, primarily from rural and indigenous parts of Mexico, whose residence in the U.S. relies on the good grace of employers who are in contact with the Department of Homeland Security. Given the instantly revocable nature of guest workers' visas, workers are effectively prevented from organizing and creating a coercive labor regime that has been compared to slavery. Slaving is a lucrative business, and the legalization of slavery is happening before our very eyes under the Trump administration, Marjorie said. I could say I go a little bit further than that, to be very frank. It is a bifurcated system that special interest groups seeks to streamline and automate with the support of both major parties domestically. He added, describing these policies as a form of Trumpian capitalism. That's corporatism, I can say that. Immigrants for sale. U.S. prisons are largely controlled by a handful of monopolistic firms or real estate investment trusts, with Geo Group, which are based, the world headquarters is right off I-95 in Boca Raton, Florida, and Core Civic, formerly Corrections Corporation of America, or ANCOM CCA, standing at the helm of the industry for private prisons operators through their weight behind Trump's Law and Order campaign in 2016. Sounds like flip-flop where Scott tried to do that, but some of the Republican Party shot down some of the prisons that are going to be privately run, which that's good. I'm glad to see that. Following his election victory, both GEO and Core Civic continued pouring cash into his till. They each gave $250,000 toward the inauguration celebration. There's a link for that. You can see it for yourselves. So you guys are pretty good. The two companies enjoy contracts with the federal government to build and operate detention facilities under Obama. Yet the company's stock took a sharp hit in 2016 after the ongoing administration announced plans to scale back government reliance on private prisons. Washington had been plagued with public pressure over abuses at private prisons and migrant detention centers, and headlines covering hunger strikes, suicide, sexual abuse, and pitfall medical care filled newspapers on an alarming regular basis. The private prison corporations' investments in the Trump campaign were lucrative to say the least. Upon coming to power, Trump swiftly followed through on his campaign promises to vastly boost ICE operations, with Attorney General Jeff Sessions' Department of Justice quickly implementing a zero tolerance policy, requiring an increase in immigration and border agents along the funding shore for detention facilities. By late February 2017, scarcely a month after the Trump inauguration ball, the prison company's stock prices rallied to previously unheard of heights, nearly doubling their market value. Their profitability has continued to rise as market speculation and new influxes of taxpayer dollars, driven by overcrowding results from the exponential boost in migrant incarceration. Few profits extracted from largely Latin American refugees fleeing conditions primarily created by U.S. imperialist policies in their home regions. What's interesting about that, based on past history, person who could attest to that is the late General Smedley Butler. You should check out that book, War is the Racket, and he talks all about the areas of Nicaragua and so forth. New regimes are expanding quickly and utilizing all the tools left behind the Obama administration. Immigrant rights activist and undocumented Bellingham-based community leader Maru Mora Villapando told Mint Press News they made it easier for jails and now prisons to start detaining immigrants. Plus, they are looking at expanding or creating new private detention centers for adults and children, she added. And there's a thing you go watch private prisons back Trump. So you can look at all this on here. Some links on here to check it out. As I said, Janus faced Obama or the reporter-in-chief. During the mid-2010s, crime rates in the U.S. has dropped as social movements clamored for criminal justice reform and the reduction of the radicalized disproportionate mass incarceration of primarily black and brown poor people. Increasingly, others in the state, like California, passed laws reducing sentences and reversed the DACA laws, the three strikes law. As a result, black communities have been modest decline in prisons and in prison rates. So there's always the pros and cons of California too. I'm a little critical on some of their trying to infringe on their natural born rights. However, the rest of the unauthorized migrant population estimated to number anywhere between 11 to 12 million had largely grown quiet in their demands for full rights following a period of intense political activity and mass mobilization in 2006 to resist the Sensenbrenner bill, which sought to criminalize migrants and seek their wholesale removal. This was a community that was on the receiving end of what Professor William I. Robinson called an undeclared war, an offshoot of the post-9/11 war on terror, which in the name of national security and anti-terrorism sought to campaign on migrants' rights and install a militarized regime of immigrant detention and deportation. Largely Latino and overwhelmingly Mexican and Central American, the immigration community was also the most lucrative motor force for the U.S. economy, be it in agriculture, the hospitality industry, food service, child care, domestic labor, retail, manufacturing, and so on. As Robinson noted, self-exploitation of immigrant workforce not be possible if that workforce has the same rights as citizens. It did not face the insecurities and vulnerabilities of being undocumented or illegal. Granting full citizenship rights to tens of millions of immigrants in the United States would undermine the division of the United States, and by extension, the global working class into immigrants and citizens. That division is an essential component of the new class relations of global capitalism, globalism, of course, predicated on a flexible mass of workers who can be hired and fired at will, and are deunionized and face precarious work conditions and job instability, rollback of benefits, and downward pressures on wages. While Democrat politicians express sympathy for migrants with honey slogans, "No human being is illegal," the Obama administration continued to fuel the ICE dragnet mass deportation apparatus. Contracts with private prison corporations were renewed while the administration issues form of administrative relief like deferred actions or childhood revivals or DACA. Amid these contradictions, administration of Obama, who may began to describe as a deporter-in-chief, remains somewhat open to popular pressure. The difference is that the Obama administration had shame, the Trump administration has no shame, Marjorie said, noting that this group has some degree of success speaking truth to power and preventing local law enforcement from enforcing immigration laws. In Marjorie's opinion, the rule of law as overseen by Obama and then Attorney General Eric Holder at least allow advocates the space to successfully fight the gains, he added. If you pay close attention, the Trump administration are replacing the rule of law. What they desperately plead is a moral authority of nationalism, white supremacy, and patriarchy. But their true moral authority is death and premature death that they produce through war and incarceration. Enter the white supremacist nativists. When Trump unleashed his campaign on the U.S. through loud promises to build a wall and keep Mexicans rapists out of the country, it became clear that he was aiming to win votes of white nativists whose ideological aims coincided with the interest for profit prison operators. Indeed, Trump began repeat dubious talking points from Breitbart then originated in the Washington, D.C. offices of anti-illegal groups affiliated with no-hold-bars, white racialist far-right. Such groups Numbers USA, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and think tank offshoot, the Center for Immigration Studies, were founded either directly or indirectly by white nationalist leader John Tanton. I think it's wholly about John Tanton. I'm just curious if he's funded by if he's on someone's high payroll, okay? So he may be a puppet. Since 1979, these groups known as Tanton Network began embedding themselves in the Republican Party through the use of savvy, demagogic talking points that radicalized discourse over immigration policy. The group's messaging simultaneously played on white Americans' insecurities over feeling scarce of living unemployment results from neoliberal policies, as well as dogwhistlers that played on a time-honored U.S. tradition scapegoat communities of color and recently arrived immigrants from the global south. In 1993, the population-controlled obsessed Tanton argued that a European-American majority was needed for a European-American society and culture to persist. In his essay, Alien Invasion, Tanton further described migrants as a parasitic, umbia-like entity that reproduces rapidly and eats everything in sight. By 1997, Tanton said that the urgent closure for the border was needed to prevent immigrants defecating and creating garbage and looking for jobs. Without the use of old-school racist slurs, and at least not publicly, Tanton was clearly positioning non-European aliens as a threat of the Judeo-Christian civilization of white natives. In the U.S., Tanton and his network of groups like FAIR issued constant bulletins and studies reinforcing his lure, humanizing depictions of feces-flinging migrants laying waste to the U.S., a precursor to Trump's description of animal carnage where the Central American MS-13 hoodlums and their non-criminal relatives or animals run rampant in the U.S. By 2016, Tanton Network's white nationalists and metastasized across the GOP and were especially well represented in the Trump campaign. Officials like the Senator and now Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his close comrade Stephen Miller were among the most prominent affiliates and Trump's team. Secession has successfully led fights against modest immigration reform attempts under the Bush and Obama administrations, and was fierce proponent of integrating the federal immigration enforcement apparatus with state and local enforcement agencies. He also demanded an end to the catch and release policy of President Obama, which allowed unauthorized migrants apprehended by ICE to reside in the U.S. free of incarceration until they could have their day in immigration court. Upon coming to America, Trump and Sessions unleashed the floodgates of the Tanton network upon his cabinet while undoing the Obama administration's control on ICE. Formerly considered a lunatic, perhaps neo-fascist, fringe of the conservative movement, these white nationalists instead grew a dominant policy discussion inside the Republican Party and their implementation by the executive branch. As recently last month, Trump tapped Ronald Morrison, a notorious anti-immigrant extremist and fellow from the Center for Immigration Studies, to head the State Department's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. Prior to being picked, Morrison has accused undocumented migrants of serious felonies that impact American men, women, and children. Morrison also claimed that even the strongest supporters of illegal aliens acknowledge that 7% of illegal aliens routinely commit felonies, a completely fabricated figure that flies in the face of reputable studies showing that undocumented immigrants commit crimes at lower rates than U.S. citizens. Pretty interesting there too. So that's why I always got to look at ethical aspects. Okay, that's one thing I'll look at. So I'll continue on here. Under Sessions and his Canton affiliate colleagues, the Justice Department, and the Department of Homeland Security have vastly expanded the mandate of federal immigration agents to clamp down on dissent, as Maura Napolitano found out in May when she received a deportation order after the Washington Department of Licensing Employees sent her information to ICE. And targeting Maura Napolitano caused a huge national uproar that ultimately resulted in the resignation of the department heads. And interesting to hear about the figure right here about native-borns is 276,300,000, and foreign-born is 42,200,000, and 26% are undocumented. Considered legal, some are documented, others are citizens. So 47. Well, Maura Napolitano told Mint Press News, DOJ's role is criminalizing our immigrant communities and making it easier for ICE to detain and excuse deportation. There's a clear attack on anyone that's an immigrant with or without papers, anyone having to flee and migrate, and anyone that dare to speak against these practices. New policies have also chilled popular dissent in immigrant communities, yet Maura Napolitano stresses that the resistance won't end. While many are more scared than before, there are some that will continue speaking up and organizing, she said. There is hope as long as we continue fighting. Continuing, Maura Napolitano observed that not only Trump officials, but the rank and file of ICE and DHS customs and border protection agencies are like a mind with the present administration and can be expected to use their powers for the purpose of stifling immigrant rights advocates. She commented, ICE has become a full political repression machine, and it wasn't that difficult since they are already an agency intended to destroy our communities. They, along with CBP, jumped on the political anti-immigrant racist xenophobic bandwagon since the electoral year in 2016 by endorsing Trump during his campaign. What they didn't expect after they targeting us for our political work was that the community would fight back, she added. Maura Napolitano doesn't think that minor reforms or protections such as DACA or bipartisan comprehensive immigration reform can come close to ending an increasing use of private prisons where suffering her community has undergone following the targeting of immigrants following the September 11, 2001. And I can be very frank too, DACA was considered unconstitutional at the time because it had never been approved by the Senate or Congress. Well, executive orders don't count. However, this is interesting because you've got to look at both ways. You got to look at all sides to this matter. And that's why I was against the whole private prison firm industry as well. And I've been saying that plenty of times on my past shows. For that reason, she and like-minded organizers aren't soft-stepping around the issue, but are aiming at the heart of state terror and the campaign of mass confinement aimed at millions of undocumented U.S. residents. When asked about her demands, Mara Valtano cuts to the chase. Demand is simple: abolish ICE. By doing so, the entire machine will fall apart. The private sector that benefits off criminalization, and even non-profits will also live off immigrants' misery. The agency has been around for 15 years. It's time for them to be gone, and all the millions of dollars has been used to exploit and oppress our communities should be invested in education, housing, and healthcare. Well, to be very frank, I don't think the federal government. I don't want them putting more money into education, because I'll tell you one thing: leaving all the security in the hands of the government when it comes to education and other sites is very damn dangerous. It should be more on the state level, but that's okay. That's how I see the world. But she has those points, and that's her view. Mara Valtano doesn't see the demands as unrealistic, nor she sees the Trump administration as capable of stifling migrant communities' aspiration for dignified and just treatment rather than open-ended war against them. There is hope as long as we continue fighting regardless of the retaliation and intimidation tactics the government uses against us. We won't give up. It's an interesting analysis here, of course, the top photo and all that. It's very interesting here because, like I said, we got to start. If the whole thing was in the past, is that the immigration policies have been biased for a very long time. Now you're seeing the relapse or the repercussions. And if you were to do it across the board, it'll probably not be perfect, but it'll be a hell of a lot better. And even there's times in the past that the United States didn't let anyone in the countries legally because of the depression. And that's across. You got to do it across the board. So you can't be very selective, and that's how the immigration policies in the United States. And what's for dry foot, one group would have, the other one can't. That's because it's all completely unacceptable. But I'm gonna, so these are decent articles. Like I said, it's got to be honorable across the board. And you know what? And these people, you got folks coming in here, they wouldn't be in sanctuary cities. Look, to be very frank, I'm not too fond of that. And I'm a living, free-thinking individual myself. And the truth of the matter is, even though they may not be citizens, but they do have certain rights because it's part of our Bill of Rights culture. So you have to see that as well. They can be considered trespassing, or maybe they have the right to seek asylum, but they're going to have merit as well. Because that's what happened in the past. It's like when they had the Cubans coming, when people from Cuba coming in, with dry foot, or from China, they ship them back. It's like one thing or the other. Like they're being very selective. And this has been going on for a long time. And I have to agree, too, that the United States should be getting out of these foreign entanglements, not even meddling with their affairs, or get involved in regime change. There's laws in the books. I even talked about that on my past episodes. Even that one law pertaining to Venezuela, the United States can do some tactics to support the change in that nation, which even President Barack Obama signed into law around 2014. So just look that up about the Venezuela U.S. involvement. I think it's called the Venezuela Change Act, something like that, Reform Act, which was passed around 2014. So it's really the morose as well with the children. That's the ring I find disheartening. And remember, all be treated like humans, not like total numbers. All right, cruel and unusual punishment. It's considered unconstitutional. 8th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Those are the facts. And I'm going to do one more here pertaining to this. And this came from Intercept. And it's a real, book by Debbie Nathan. And it came out, here today as well. So I'm going to be looking into that right now. It says here, desperate asylum seekers are being turned away by the U.S. border agents claiming there is no room. By Debbie Nathan, so once again. Border protection agents are systematically violating U.S. international law by blocking immigrants in international ports of entry on the southern border from entering the country so they can claim asylum. Immigration civil rights advocates have been documenting this illegal behavior since late 2016 from Texas to California. It was sporadic then and appears to have been based to at least and part of the CBP's difficulties with handling large numbers of people. Even so, the practice of turning immigrants away has suddenly become routine, creating chilling scenes of immigrants and children camped out near the bridge, exposed to sun, wind, and rain, amid make-do bedding, scattered clothing, and trash. In a few days' time, the immigrants walk into the middle of the bridges and ask to be admitted to the port of entry building on the U.S. side so they can request asylum. They are almost always turned back. The Intercept witnessed such a scene on June 4th in El Paso, Texas. At 6 a.m., the sun rose on a 15-year-old Guatemalan boy and his father who were trying to walk across the border to apply for asylum. They did not swim the Rio Grande or otherwise attempt to enter the country illegally. They made their attempt on an RC international bridge that joins El Paso and the Mexico City's Ciudad Juarez. There's a video on that. You can check it out yourself. So they were stopped at the top of the bridge by two CBP agents, who refused to let them cross, pointed them back to Mexico, and said to try crossing later. This was the sixth time in 3 days that the man and his son, and about a dozen other Guatemalans, had been thus rejected. I knew they were Guatemalans because I spoke with a man 2 days earlier. I spotted him in a group squatting disconsolately on the Mexican side of the bridge by the public bathrooms. This man and others in the group told me that they were asylum seekers afraid to go back to their home country because of violence there. They were extremely frustrated about being turned away. They recounted that the agents always told them there was no room to process them at the port of entry. They should go back later when there might be a room. There never was room. False words. The man was in the sun, he said in Spanish, was heavily accented by Cuquechi, his indigenous tongue. Another man started crying, and Debbie Nathan did that. There's a little video clip on there as well. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, immigrants within the U.S. will tell immigration officials they're afraid to return to their countries to have the right to request asylum and to be immediately processed. They're not supposed to be turned back at bridges. They're not supposed to be banished to life on Mexican sidewalks by public toilets, begging passersby for tacos to feed their children. Yet, this has been happening, not just at El Paso, but also all ports of entry along the southern border. Immigration rights advocates first noticed that asylum seekers were being turned away at some bridges shortly after the election of Donald Trump, and the practice continued on into 2017. A Southern California immigrant advocacy group, Al Orlando, responded by suing U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for violation of U.S. immigration law and the Constitution. The suit is ongoing. The blocking works this way in the precise in the middle of the international bridges. CBP agents stand sentry-like near the imagery line dividing the two countries. A line often marked with a ceremonial metal plaque. The agents peer at everyone crossing, looking for people that they might think be candidates for the asylum. If the people say anything suggesting they might be requesting the asylum, if they're not Mexicans, and especially if they're from Central America, the agents block their way to say to come back another time. Local people who frequently cross the border start noticing the agents in early May, but did not know why they were on the bridge. Some people started calling Ruben Garcia, director of the Naturalization House, a migrant shelter which encompasses a network of satellite shelters. The shelter has for years maintained a close relationship with ICE. They regularly take immigrants who have been picked up by the Border Patrol process and released by ICE pending the results of their immigration cases. Garcia said he was very familiar with how many people the government picks up from week to week and with how much of their own space CBP and ICE have to process people. In late May, Garcia and some volunteers at his shelter began visiting the bridges and taking statements from Central Americans who've been denied entry. Based on that experience or other information he has gathered, Garcia believes that the sudden day in, day out presence of CBP agents on the bridges and the routine turn back of Central Americans and other migrants is something new and disturbing. In El Paso, Garcia believes that government claims of no room in 2016-2017 might have some merit. back then there really were a lot of Central Americans coming. I know the government was overwhelmed in El Paso because we were overwhelmed at our shelters. Garcia said, but now, he said, the situation has changed. The numbers are down at our shelters, and they're down. If they're down at our shelters, they got to be down at the government facilities. Garcia said those facilities include interview room at point of entry. You can't imagine they are overtaxed. Yet we said Central Americans stranded at the bridge constantly tell them that CBP agents that there's no room to process the migrants. Garcia said he asked a low-level CBP agent who was working in the National Bridge why Central Americans were being blocked. This is a border-wide policy. Garcia said the agent answered. Garcia believes the policy is connected to Attorney General Jeff Sessions' zero-tolerance policy initiated in early May. This is when the Trump administration began routinely splitting up immigrant adults and children who were caught crossing into the U.S. Most families were from Central America. By blocking asylum seekers crossing illegally, CBP is pressuring them to cross illegally. What? Garcia believes this new practice gives the government to excuse to split up even more families. It sounds like an entrapment game to me, and I say that out of respect. Now, putting officers on the bridge, said a CBP spokesman, the agency is taking a proactive approach to ensure that arriving travelers have valid entry documents in order to expedite the processing of lawful travel. Depending upon port circumstances at the time of arrival, individuals presenting without documents may need to wait in Mexico as CBP officers work to process those already with our facilities. The number of admissible individuals we were able to process in a day varies based on the complexity of the case. Resources available, medical needs, translation requirements, holding detention space, overall port volume, and enforcement actions. As in the past, when we had to limit the number of people we can bring in for processing, and at given time, we expect that this will be a temporary situation. Amber Ramirez, a former immigration paralegal, came to the same conclusion earlier this month after she saw a social media post on Facebook about CBP agents blocking asylum seekers on the international bridge. Ramirez, 25, crosses frequently between El Paso and Juarez. On her way to El Paso one day, after looking at Facebook, Ramirez saw a group of people who looked distressed. Speaking with them, she learned that we're all from Guatemala. A 16-year-old girl and a woman with a frightened preschool-aged daughter. The teenager told Ramirez that they had been prevented from crossing for days. They said they were considering coming into the U.S. by waiting and walking under the bridge. Ramirez knew that waiting and walking would result in mother being criminally prosecuted and separate from her child. So he decided to act, even though she felt shaky. My whole life, I've been scared and intimidated by border agents, she said. She gathered the teenagers, the woman and child. She walked them on top of the bridge. Once there, she noticed that the one CBP agent was standing north of the border, well within the United States. Ramirez looked at the Central Americans and realized they had advertently stepped forward. They were in the United States too. The agents tried to get Ramirez and the group to take a few steps back to Mexico. Instead, the group stayed politely but stubbornly in place. A quiet standoff ensued. The supervisor arrived and seemed angry. Ramirez tried hard to remember the text of the Immigration Nationality Act, the part about aliens in the U.S. territory have the right to claim asylum. She wanted to quote it to the supervisor, but apparently she already knew the law. She remembers him scowling about waving Central Americans past the blockade and the point of entry. 2 days later, on June 4th, I saw a Guatemalan man with a 15-year-old son walking south on the bridge to Mexico. The man said they had just been prevented from crossing CBP blockade for the 6th time in 3 days. I asked if he and his son would walk back again with me behind them. He agreed. At the time, something similar to Ramirez's experience occurred when the agents saw us. They noticed that I was taking a video with my phone and seemed flustered. While telling the man and his son that there was no room, they stepped backward into the U.S. The Guatemalans stepped forward. I know the agents of the Guatemalans were now in the U.S. and now had the legal right to request asylum. It is not that we're not going to help them. It's a capacity issue, one agent said. The two shifted from foot to foot among color supervisors. The Guatemalans stolidly held their ground within their first few inches of America. The supervisor arrived, assessed the situation, and waved the father and son northward. I followed the supervisor's walkie-talkie squawk to officials farther down the line that asylum seekers were coming to the port of entry along with the report. Suddenly, the Guatemalan father and son pair came up behind us. I earlier met and filmed them too. They said they had decided to follow me when I saw I was walking behind the others. The second family has also been denied many times. Now, they also just had been let through. Inside the port, a gray-haired CBP agent peered at the four Guatemalans' wrinkled identity papers, which the fathers have finished from the plastic bags. In a pleasant voice, the agent asked, "Are you fit to return to your country?" "Yes," said the Guatemalans. "Step this way." I said goodbye and good luck to Guatemalans, but without advocates or press at their side, other immigrants are still not getting past the bridge blockade. On June 9th, two journalists, Bob Moore, freelancer, and Claudia Tristan from El Paso's KFOX TV, stood on the southbound side of the bridge. They were not immediately visible to the CBP officials. Each pointed their phones toward the northbound side and filmed a woman, whom they later determined was a Honduran asylum seeker, and her small son walking several feet into the United States. The video shows of the two being turned back to Mexico. Carolina Walters is a staff attorney at the Washington, D.C.-based American Immigration Council, one of the groups representing the plaintiffs of Al Atrolado's lawsuit. She said that these turnbacks of people already on U.S. soil constitute civil rights violations, and to get to the heart of the lawsuit. The day after the journalists made their turnback videos, Garcia called a community meeting to recruit volunteers to go on the bridge in shifts. Almost 50 people came to the meeting, a very impressive number of for El Paso. Garcia said similar gatherings had been underway during the past several days in other Texas border cities. Garcia is training some of his recruits to go to the bridge in shifts and take notes where they see refugees being turned back from requesting asylum. He has another group that is learning to accompany the immigrants to the invisible line. He hopes those volunteers will be able to help asylum seekers exercise their rights in the face of blockading border agents. Very interesting indeed. So there's claims that it's been full, and the reality is not. But the truth of the matter is, based on that naturalization, citizenship, it does have those discussions on asylum seeking. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to add a couple of videos from Lisa Haven, which conspiracy theory about Walmart now proven fact. U.S. Senator denied, and I think it's Senator Markley, I think his name is, Jeff Markley. Yeah, this is Jeff Markley. Hold on, he's from Texas. He wanted to check out, he wanted to go in, he wanted to see the facility himself. He got denied. Yeah, Jeff Markley, Senator from Texas. And another one video here too from Lisa Haven is Walmart's FEMA camps. Now they're all gone full police state. So I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to add Justia.com, blog.justia.com, naturalization of aliens, and all that good stuff. And it is important that we should know these laws as well about seeking asylum, because I know for a fact too, because that's why during that time, like what's going on in Nicaragua and Guatemala, Honduras is pretty damn nasty. I know friends of mine who were from those countries, and now they became citizens. They went to the barracks and all that, including not relying on government handouts. So that's what it says. Always ethical, not ethnical. Those are the areas you got to look at. And another thing, the flip side, you have to always got to be aware of the Club of Rome agenda. Try to use illegal mass immigration to fill up the other countries. Like look what's happening in Canada, for an example. And they're feeling the effect as well. So I'm going to definitely put all these in here under my footnotes. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to these situations, okay, a lot of these, going on the border, that's okay. I'm not going to, they have the right to seek asylum according to the Naturalization and Citizenship laws and for the rules on that. And plus, another thing we have to look at too is always beware of the criminal elements of that as well. And like I said, it doesn't matter who they are. And so, but the fact is this. One thing I find disturbing, and I have to agree with John Whitehead on this, don't treat them like filthy animals. They're human beings. Honor the 8th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Okay, that is the law of the land. And the federal government should know that, but remember, you got a bunch of jerk-offs in there think they're smarter than everybody else. Yes, that's why, like I said, I'm not being biased or bigoted by any means on an ethnical basis. It's always on ethics. And that's how I see things. Because there's a lot of people that come to these nations as well that are capable of have the capability of being productive individuals and could be citizens, naturalized citizens. And I know this for a fact, even when I'm living down in Canada, where the whole Haitian, Cuban, Nicaraguan exodus happened. And that's one thing you gotta find things unique. And they can be inspired, being Americanized. You're always gonna have, people gonna be complaining, but it's gotta be done correctly, by the book. No ands, ifs, or buts. In addition, the private prison industry needs to go to hell, as far as I'm concerned, because they need people in there so they can benefit. And I say the hell with it. Okay, cool. So, yeah, you give me your intakes, man. It'd be great. Wow, it's almost an hour. So I'm going to do a couple more here, totally different from what I was addressing. And this one came out today, I think. No, yesterday. And it says here, cameras off. New video shows Vegas shooting strike team being told to turn off body cameras. This is by Matt Agarist, which is from the freethoughtproject.com. Las Vegas, after being forced to release information on October 1st massacre, the Las Vegas Police Department is now insultingly futile attempt at transparency has been dumping information related to the shooting. In what appears to be a deliberate attempt to muddy the waters, much of the video released by the department has no timestamps and provided without context. However, one of the particularly suspicious set of videos was released. Were released, to be very sincere. Thursday, which shows cops being told to turn off their body cameras. For months, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department has been caught lying, railroading journalists, and done everything in their power to keep the facts of what happened on the 1st of October from ever reaching the public. Yep, and Joe Blow Lombardo won the primaries. Remember, he's just another federalized Uncle Tom, property of Homeland Security. The department's desire to keep information secret was so overwhelming that they fought its release all the way to the Nevada Supreme Court. Early last month, however, the court rejected the police department's bid to keep the record secret, and they are now forced to hand everything over. Instead of catalog evidence and detailed reports, however, they are merely releasing random, unlabeled pieces of information. A large dump of video taken from 28 body cameras was released this week, according to the Las Vegas Review Journal. Most of the videos had no timestamps, but they were taken at some point in response to Stephen Paddock carrying out the massacre. For the videos in the massive dump of footage show officers who were part of a strike team assembling near the Mandalay Bay Casino. According to the chatter captured in the video, the strike team is prepping to enter the hotel. Officers are waiting. They're waiting, says male voice off screen. Officers are waiting to get in there. As police stand in line waiting to enter the hotel, multiple body cameras show a female officer walking down the road, instructing officers to turn off their cameras. Cameras are off, cameras are off, cameras are off, she says. And also repeat, cameras off at each video ends. As the journal reports, it is not clear when or why the cameras were activated. One video is 18 minutes long, one is 20 minutes long, and the other two are just over a minute each. It's also unclear why the officers were told to turn off their cameras off. When the journal reached out the department to clarify why officers were told to turn off their body cameras, predictably, the department did not answer. However, their body camera policy is public, and these videos appear showing them violating it. According to the body camera policy, once the officer camera is activated, it should continue recording unless there's a reasonable exception. As the journal reports, exceptions included if the event is of sensitive nature, such as sexual assault of a child, if the event has concluded prior to an officer's arrival, or an officer determines the recording must be stopped based on clearly articulable reasons. What's more, and what clearly did not happen in this footage, that the department policy states officers must state specific reasons that they are turning off their cameras before doing so. The more information that comes out on the horrific events on that fateful night, the more questions the public has. The uncooperative behavior by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is a kick in the teeth to the victims and their families. As the suspect video below shows, they are, from the very beginning of the shooting, Vegas police were actively engaged in keeping this information from the public. Shameful indeed. If you like to voice your concerns about the lack of transparency and overt attempt at covering up the facts as to what happened in Vegas, you can peacefully do so as the department's Facebook page here, or you can call them at 702-828-3394. How disgusting is that? To be very sincere. And this is why, my friends, I still call this a Gladio-style attack. Well, some people thought it was crazy, but not anymore. I'm not saying I'm better than them, but I was taking initiative to try to look things a lot further. And people in Vegas, or Clark County, the state of Nevada needs to cut off these bastards, including Joe Lombardo. It was really disappointing. I'm very disappointed that he won the primary. And that's a real shame. And we just got to wait and see in the end of the year, right? That's one of the areas I'm really touchy about. And the people in that city or county needs to revolt against him and Homeland Security for dictating to your elected servant and how to do things. All right. I'll be right back. All right. We're going to do one more here. It's been open now. Wow. I had no intent. But it's all good, my friends. And this one actually came from the Sons of Liberty Media. Originally, I got this from Freedom Outpost by Brady Dean, and came out in the 12th. And it says here, if politicians want unconstitutional war, let's send them in. This is how the wars will end. And there's a real powerful commentary on here. So I'm going to read it in its entirety. It says here, war is delightful to those who had no experience of it. That's by Desirius Erasmus. First and foremost, I come from a military family. My grandpa was in World War I, my uncles were in World War II, my father was in Korea, my cousin was killed in Vietnam, and my brothers were in the U.S. Army and Air Force. So without a doubt, I honor the American military. But let's be clear here, in the righteous, not in unrighteous. I honor those magnified numeric laws found within our Constitution, not those who blindly follow behind corrupt politicians and fight for their unlawful ends. Ever since I can remember, I am sure you do as well, corrupt politicians in this country have been at war with other countries. I have seen war after war after war, decade after decade. Dominican Civil War, insurgency of Bolivia, Cambodian War, war in South Zaire, Lebanese Civil War, invasion of Grenada, bombing of Libya, tanker war, invasion of Panama, Gulf War, Iraqi no-fly zone enforcement, first intervention in the Somali Civil War, Bosnian War, intervention into Haiti, Kosovo Kosovo War, Operation Infinite Reach, War in Afghanistan, Iraq War, War in Northwest Pakistan, War in Somalia, Operation Ocean Seal, American-led intervention in Libya, Lord's Resistance Army Insurgency, American-led intervention in Iraq, American-led intervention in Syria, the Yemeni Civil War, American intervention in Libya. I wonder if those who are doing the fighting will be fighting at all they had taken the time to know the U.S. Constitution, which reveals what and who they are fighting for. For the most part, wars above are unconstitutional and illegal. We use a lot of biblical lyrics in here, biblical references in here too. You can read it for sure. I'm going to put this on here on my footnotes. Nowhere I'm not offended by talking about biblical scriptures, okay? America has been at war 93% of the time of this inception. That is 222 years out of 242 years since 1776. The United States has been at peace for at least 20 years since its birth. Notice as to who is doing the fighting. Your grandpas, your fathers, your brothers, your cousins, your neighbors, or perhaps your mothers, your sisters, or even yourself, etc. Guess who is not doing the fighting? Politicians who are working on the behalf of the special interest groups such as the bankers, military industrial complex, etc. In short, they are those who are responsible for creating the wars. To be quite frank, I'm sick and tired of the lies. Remember, the truth is always the first casualty in war, thrown on the American people in order to fight their unconstitutional wars. Who do you think is funding these wars? The American taxpayers are. Then those who began the wars end up profiting from them. Politicians, of course, with the help of the CIA-controlled media, are lying to you on a daily basis. They are the very ones that are accusing and casting into the minds of Americans that the leaders of other countries are dictators, that they are evil and monstrous and must be dealt with or else. All the while, these same politicians are hoping that you forget that they're the ones who are consistently lying to you. They are also those who will not raise a hand to help in the war that they created and what you believe is a just war. Maybe the American government, we the people, should judge within before judging without. First stop, Washington, D.C. This government sends innocent boys over to fight their unconstitutional wars in a third world country while they are given a pass as they commit the same crimes against Americans here in the homeland. Hypocrites. Hopefully this will explain as to why so many foreign countries hate America. They hate America because of what Americans let their representatives do to their prospective countries unlawfully. I say that if the politicians and special interest groups want war, then let's throw them all in the cage and fight it out to the death. I like this article already. If they claim that that is absurd and ridiculous, then you know that this is not a war worth fighting. This is why it is important, regardless if you're in the U.S. military, police force, civil government, or any other capacity of representative government, to know what the U.S. Constitution says. We should follow all the references to what is legal and what is illegal in the sight of God and foremost, and unto men. To those served, we the people in any capacity must remember what they swore their oath to uphold. I, you state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter, so help me God. That's the U.S. Code 5, Title 5, U.S. Code, Section 3331. Yes, that was a train. Of course, it uses Deuteronomy 23, verse 23. Notice that while swearing the oath to serve we the people is both it states both foreign and domestic. Domestic meaning here in America, such as unconstitutional unlawful enforcements here that go against our Constitution, unlawful enforcement such as illegal search and seizures and door-to-door disarmament, etc., are all illegal. These orders are illegal, and the individuals that get such orders are to be dealt with. Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. So it's important to know who and what you're fighting for, rather than just blindly falling in line that which may be illegal again, both here and abroad. During the Vietnam Memorial, it was widely circulated that the politicians were very eager to send America's finest, whose names came up during the draft lottery. That is, until their children's names were pulled up. Then the war soon ended. Draft lottery, 1863, the draft rights of New York City, also known as the Irish Uprising. Look it up, from the so-called Civil War. It is true that our politicians are willing to lay down your life and live and the lives of others for his country, yet not when it comes to his own life or the lives of those close to him. If that be the case, which has been so many times in the past, that unconstitutional orders must be resisted. When the law is obeyed, it cannot have another unlawful and unconstitutional war. If everyone catches on to the point being made here, not only with the illegal orders to go to war which resisted and denied, but the American people will also lawfully deal with the corrupt politicians. Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, once again. Here's a little quote. Of course, the people don't want more, but after all, it is the leaders of the country who determine the policy. It is always a simple matter to drag the people along, whether it's democracy, a fascist dictatorship, or a parliament, or a communist dictatorship. Voice or no voice, the people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them that they're being attacked and denounce the pacifists for the lack of patriotism and exposing the country to greater danger. Hermann Goring at the Nuremberg trials. And again, I say that if the politicians want war, let's send them to war. For you know as well as I do, it will be the very method in which war will cease. How is that anyone can fight on the behalf of those that kill, steal, and destroy for profit, and advocate for war when you know that they are lying to you? Listen to what these men had to say of our American military, our grandpas, our fathers, our uncles, our brothers, our neighbors, our mothers, our sisters, etc. Former National Security Advisor and former Secretary of State Kissinger said, military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for foreign policy. I've read his quote so many times, that's why I despise that prick, that Jabba the Hutt in a suit and tie that walks. General Smithy Butler said, our boys were sent off to die with beautiful ideas painted in front of them. None of them told that the dollars and cents were the real reason they are marching off to kill and die. I spent 33 years and 4 months in active military service, and during that period, I spent most of my time as a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street and the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer, a gangster for capitalism. I say cronyism to be exact, crony capitalism with all due respect. I just clarify that. And that is all the coming that the general said. I wouldn't go to war again after knowing what was going on within, as I had done to protect some lousy investment of the bankers. There are only two things we should fight for. One is our defense of our home, and the other is the Bill of Rights. Maybe this explains why America has 700 military bases in over 146 countries. Where I ask in the U.S. Constitution, is it the job of the American government to police the world? Where is it the duty of those who serve in the capacity to throw off the U.S. Constitution, to obey tyrannical orders, and fight their wars? I cannot find it. I don't either. Often wars are fought without congressional approval, and why? Because they know that the people knew the truth of the matter. They will not approve such measures and fight. Don't forget that those that do their bidding in unconstitutional wars are just as guilty as them that are giving unlawful orders. There's some videos and all that here. You can check out yourself. When the American people realize who needs to be lawfully dealt with, they are going to find out that the problem is in Washington, D.C., rather than some created cave dweller with a turban on his head in a third world country. Furthermore, when our forefathers who established this country thought war was inviolable, they were the first ones to go as an example to the rest of the people. It was said of George Washington that he was first in war, first in peace, first in the hearts of his countrymen. Today is the opposite is true of those who represent the people. Again, since when are the police, military, and representative governments supposed to follow unconstitutional orders? They are not. And if the unconstitutional orders are not followed through with, the innocent will not be violated but protected. This is the rule of law that reigns supreme. This is why the reason why the American people should take the time and read the enumerated laws found within the U.S. Constitution. When John the Baptist demanded upon by soldiers, they asked him, "And what shall we do?" And he said unto them, "Do no violence to any man, neither accuse any falsely, and be content with your wages." What do warmongers in America advocate for? Just the opposite of what the Word of God teaches. They advocate violence and lies to gain profits. Either man will end war or else war will end man. Which one you desire? The answer, if you want to end war, then just send the politicians that wanted to do that war. On point, to be exact. I've been calling up politicians such as Marco Rubio, Senator Marco Rubio, and Bill Nelson. I'm from the state of Florida. I call them up. If you're going to support the so-called a war on a certain country, I want your real in the front line. Let's see how tough you are. If every American citizen starts saying that to them, even at town meetings, call out these clowns, you know what? They'll be taking a dump in their pants more than ever before. They will put the fear in us, counter it with the truth. Have them go on the front line. Let's see how arrogant or macho these really are. Even some of the women in government think they're real tough. They've never been to battle. Let's see how tough they are when they go to war. You get them all servants, not masters or mistresses. Stop bending over the banksters, you elected clowns that you are. Talking about the people in government, Congress, etc. The truth shall set us free and infuriate our adversaries, including you in a domestic level. That's how I see it. And I'd like to thank Bradley Dean, for making that statement. So it proves one thing. We're not alone in this fight. More people are waking up to see what's happening. And even the one that may hate us, they know the people do give a damn about them. You're sick of the tyrannical propaganda. Folks are being exposed every single day. You are wearing no clothes and you don't have the courage to admit it. Deep down inside, you know I'm right. Alright, that is it. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share this about your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you send me something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address the correspondence in decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network. Go to freedomsnetwork.com and donate some money, please, before they go off the set to see me. Minds.com, if you're not .club. My Patreon.com account, I gotta fix that, so I'll let you know in advance. You hit me at gab.ai, yours.org, oneway.org, or buddieslist.co. Cool little social media sites, just in case I get shut down by the mainstream social media. In addition, you can get me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com, or two encrypted ones, LokiLuck03 at protonmail.com. If you have a Proton Mail account, that would be superb. Alright, my friends, once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is helpful to the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.